Melbourne were the number one defensive side last season, which is a key factor that keeps them in a lot of games, even if they're not going to win them. As we'll see by the win margins here with Melbourne, of the games that they lost, all nine of them were by 1 to 39 points. So when they get beaten, they don't get beaten by all that much. And for that reason, that's why they're able to win 16 games for 2 consecutive seasons. But this season coming up, I have them dropping off just a little bit. Don't think they're going to miss finals, but I think they're going to move from a top four side that we've seen over the past 3 years out to a fifth to eighth kind of range side and maybe a touch on the low end, depending how they perform at home. The issue I have with Melbourne is they just haven't been able to step up in games where they're expected to perform well. We've seen since winning the premiership back in 2021, they've been eliminated in straight sets in the finals since then. So they're a good regular season team, but they're a touch untrustworthy over the past couple of years in finals. So I think they're going to move just out of that top four with a few other teams on the rise. If you want to know who those teams are, make sure you watch the AFL full season preview going through where I think every team's going to finish on the ladder for the upcoming season. But focusing on Melbourne, last season, they had a good record at home, which we've seen over the previous few years. So strong from that perspective. 20 games as a favorite compared to 23 back in 2022. So that number's dropped off, and I think it'll drop off a little bit more. So there could be good opportunities to find them as an underdog this season, especially going up against teams who aren't that strong attacking wise and offensively. They're the games that Melbourne are most likely to win. Interestingly, also from a betting perspective, as an underdog, the past 3 seasons, they've covered 10 of 11 games. That's betting on them against the spread. So, plus 12 and a half or plus 15 and a half, whatever the line is for that game. That's a really, really impressive statistic. Looking through for this upcoming season, they basically have the same fixture as last year. Last year, they had the 10th easiest schedule. This year, it's the 9th. So a very small amount easier than last year. Games when they're an underdog, a lower scoring. Didn't really matter whether they're home or away. Points scored, points conceded were very, very similar for both of those. And day matches for Melbourne were slightly higher scoring, especially for their points for, which was a considerable amount higher. Looking through their statistics, as mentioned, they're the number one defensive side, number 6 defense attacking side. So those numbers hold you in really good stead to perform well right throughout the season. They've got lots of good quality players throughout their lineup, especially in their midfield as well. They generate the number one most inside 50. So if they can convert those inside 50 opportunities slightly more, if we look here, goals per inside 50 ranked 14th. So they're a team that kind of just hammers the ball inside 50 without too much strategy behind it, as shown by those numbers. And teams are able to rebound the ball out of there pretty often. And if they can tighten up that area, be a bit more efficient going inside 50, then they can definitely get those 15 to 16 wins, which they've got in the past 3 seasons. But I'm just not super confident. They've had a lot of off-field drama in the off-season surrounding Clayton Oliver. So it'd be interesting where they're at come the beginning of the season. We'll look at how they performed during the opening 8 weeks in a second. Ranked 6th in points for. Just overall, I think the key with Melbourne is they're mostly good in most factors offensively. They just need to improve their efficiency. Looking into their defensive records, ranked 2nd in points conceded, right up there with St Kilda. They give up the least shots at goal. Opponents are fairly inaccurate against them. Give up the 4th least inside 50, so they are controlling field position, ranked 4th in rebounding opponent inside 50s, ranked 2nd in opponent marks, inside 50 and marks on the lead. Also don't get caught out one-on-one in defense very often at all. And also they don't lose those contests when they are. Efficiency-wise, ranked 5th and first in opponent scoring shots. So if teams are accurate against them, they can beat them. But if teams are inaccurate against Melbourne, it's going to be very, very hard to beat them, as we've seen last season. The number 1 team in contested possessions. And then if we look at their use of the ball, fairly even across both, but they are ranked second last in disposal efficiency down there with Gold Coast. Opponent numbers, opponents don't really get all that much ball against them, largely due to the fact they don't give up that many uncontested possessions, and also because they're the number 1 contested possession side. So teams, to be able to win the ball off them, definitely need to be a top contested possession side or be very, very strong in the clearances. Melbourne's not all that great, but they're definitely a top 6 side in clearances and ranked 5th in the free kick differential. Now, from a betting perspective, this is one thing I always like to pay attention to and bring people's attention to, is the ATF betting trends. Melbourne here went 12 and 13 against the spread last season. As a favourite, only covered 8 of 20, but as an underdog, mentioned earlier, covered 4 of 5. All 5 of those games, they're an underdog by up to 15 points. Meaning they're anything up to plus 15. So only ever a small underdog when they have been. Then looking from a total betting perspective, whether their games were going over, or in Melbourne's case, they were going under the total. 15 of 25 went under. Away from home, 8 of 13 went under. As an underdog, they were also going under. 4 of 5 going under. And as an away underdog, all 3 went under. Games where the total was set at 160 or less, all 5 of those went under the total, and night matches, 9 of 12 went under. Another big trend here, Melbourne during the mid part of the season last year, all 7 of their games went under the total. So that's one to pay attention to as we go into this season. These are stats that I keep up, monitor all year round. 11 of their 16 wins were by 1 to 39. Then looking at their total points scored, no real standouts. The highest was between 76 and 90, as is the case for most sides. Did manage 4 games where they scored 121 or more, which is up there with the top teams. A few teams that are top in attack, like Adelaide, Brisbane, Geelong, and Port Adelaide also manage 4. So they are a capable scoring side. Defensively, they're kept opponents to 60 points or less 9 times, which is second best in the league, just behind Collingwood. And their overall total match points, Melbourne, 10 games were between 0 and 150, which was the most of all their total point spans if you're betting onto those markets. But overall, looking at how I think the Demons are going to go this season, I think they drop off slightly from last year, but I think they're still definitely a top 8 side. The $1.53 for them to make the top 8, I feel like there's not really any value in backing that. I think to be honest, it could be just a little bit short, and the $10 to win the premiership also I think is a little bit short. The key thing to pay attention to is, do their defensive numbers hold up into this season, and can they improve their attacking numbers? That's what I'm going to be monitoring to determine how many times I back Melbourne throughout the year. If you want to learn more about making money betting on the AFL or the NRL, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be posting videos, not just leading up to the season, but all through the season, to give you guys the best information to make profit this year.